Namaste. Things will be different for you is a phrase many of us know well as first, second, or even third generation immigrants. The promise that one generation's challenges would not be your own. I remember sitting at my grandparents' dining room table telling them about my day in second grade. There's so much to talk about when you're learning about sentence structure, rainforests, and telling time. Eventually, the conversation led to me asking my grandmother about her own school days. I was curious to know what she thought of second grade so many years ago. It was this day, 14 years ago, I learned a lot about my Nanima. That she did not finish school beyond the 8th grade, that she was married at 15, and less than a decade had 4 children and traveled across the world alone to reunite with my grandfather here in the United States. The shock on my face was clear. I couldn't imagine not going to school. Honestly, I didn't even know that was an option. I verbalized this, and when she realized the conversation was overwhelming my 7-year-old brain, she assured me it was nothing I needed to worry about. It will be different for you. While I have never forgotten this moment, I was able to believe my grandmother. Fears of not being able to go to school and thoughts of being married off as a child did not occur. They were dismissed as practices of the past. I eventually realized this was an overly optimistic assumption. October of 2012 opened my eyes to the reality that my grandmother's story is not at all ancient. On October 9, 2012, Malala Yousafzai was shot in the head for daring to go to school. Her village was just across the border from where my family in India lives. Her fate could have been mine, but it wasn't, because I was born here, now, and in my community. I became hyper-aware of this reality to the point that I couldn't forget it. The only thing separating my fate from the ones faced by marginalized people around the world was the serendipitous appointment of my life to me. It was uncomfortable for me to realize that Malala had to actively fight to go to school, something I just did. I had days where I didn't pay attention, skipped homework, or even complained about teachers, content, and what was demanded of me. I was privileged. Without the proper vocabulary, I was able to surmise that there were many parts of my life that seemed basic to me, but were rights being fought for around the world. Such privileges included, and were not limited to, access to housing, food, electricity, internet, having 2 parents, being able to disagree with my elders on things that I didn't agree with them on. Recognizing privilege made me uneasy. What was I supposed to do with it? It was unreasonable to expect me to get rid of it, to earn it for myself, to give it to others. The internal struggle made me angry. And I was marginalized too, right? I made a list. I'm a woman, I struggle with my mental health. It's not like my family was rich. This list grew too. Recognizing privilege made me uneasy. And so I've tried to forget the truth that I was privileged. I could live my life superfluously because there was nothing more pressing to me than my own life. I realized this when I was 14 years old. I was scrolling when I saw a video of a man choked to death by the police. Eric Garner. It made me feel the way I did when I saw Malala's face so many years ago. I felt the same way when I saw Michael Brown on my timeline later that year. There are many more shootings, bombings, genocides, acid attacks, and injustices in the coming years. People my age, people in my area, people that looked like me and people that didn't were fighting and resisting every day around the world. Who was I, with the privilege and access I had, not to join them? My view of the world changed. My view of myself shifted. I could, in fact, make a difference. Maybe I can't affect policy across the globe or end the oppression faced by generation after generation, but I could march, I could post, I could tweet, I could read and facilitate. I study and critique and challenge because unlike my mother and grandmother, nothing more is being asked of me. Because thanks to my mother and grandmother, things have been different for me.